Alright, so I want to do the final straightening on these pieces of cherry that I'm going to use for the core of the frame. I've got a small block plane. Still has some of its old Japanning on it, but not much. It's pretty well gone by. Anyway, I think I want to go the other direction on that. I've been eyeballing this thing, and I think it's good. It's a little pitched, but I don't think that's a big deal. There you go. A little bit of that, and I've got a piece that I think is really straight, so I'm sort of checking it against that. High spot there. Alright, that should take care of it. Oh yeah, that's beautiful. Alright, well, get the rest of these things done and then we'll rip them parallel. The inside edges of these things will be the rabbit for the glass and the painting, so just having a sawn edge will be fine. The outside edges I'll have to dress in. If you recall, I want to put a bevel on them to make them appear a little bit thinner. So we'll get to that. That's next. See you in a minute. Okay, so I've said a couple of times I wanted to have a little bit of a bevel. Remember that bark edge, that wane that was on that one of the pieces? It was this piece right here. There's a lot of bark showing, and now it's been trimmed down so there's just this teeny little bit. So really what I want to do to get rid of this and to make this outside edge a little bit lighter looking, because we're only going to see it a little bit from the edge, but still. So I'm going to pull this down. I'm going to set the blade up for 1/4 of an inch to out in about 1 inch. I don't know really what that turns into measurements, but this is about 1 inch. Pretty close. So something like that, I think. Anyway, so 1/4 of an inch. So that's a fence. So my fence is set around 1/4. And now I'm going to raise the blade to about around 1 inch. Anyway, so this is around 20 degrees. I think that should be enough. And I'm definitely out. Good. All right, now, of course, watch your fingers. Just hopefully this will work. All right, here we go. I'll say that because it's got sapwood on it. Great. Looks good. That's great. Let's go do some layout. Hey, I'm Dave. Welcome to the shop. So today, it's not happened yet. Is why today. I keep thinking I'm going to, and I haven't. What? I want to glue these pieces of cherry for the frame together at the joints. I made these miters. They're pretty good. Touched them up, got them on the bench with a square, and I marked all the pieces A, B, C, D, that sort of thing, and I put them together and I fitted them so they came out, made really nice right angle corners. I think that's great. So I've got this thing. They're all mitered. The edges are pretty square, but I've got this gluing end grain thing, right? It's no good. I don't know how you're supposed to make this work. Back in the old days, they just would drive nails in, I guess. I don't know. Beyond me. I want this to go together. I want it to look hard and strong, and I want it to stay. I've made these pieces thin, trying to cut down on the weight, but still have this thing appear massive. You know, for better or worse. I'm not saying it was a great move, but it's what I did. So I got these miters. So I've got to gussy them up somehow. So what I'm going to do, I've decided, is I'm going to cut a 1/8 inch, because I've got an 1/8 inch 3-wing cutter for my router. I'm going to cut an 1/8 inch groove right through the hole of the miter on both of the pieces, and I'm going to cut some pieces of cherry, the 1/8 of an inch thick. It'll be an inch. This is a 1/2 inch, so it'll go 1/2 inch and 1/2 inch, so an inch wide piece of cherry, just a little bit less. And I'm going to glue it in when I glue the joint together, so that I'll have something other than just the end grain gluing the thing together. Problem with end grain, I'm sure you know, but just to say for the 2 people that are watching that don't know, is the glues, the epoxy glue takes about an hour to really set up well. And during that time, some of the parts of the glue can migrate into the end grain of the cut, the joint, and cause that horror of finished carpentry glue starvation. Making that one up. But it'll starve the joint of glue. You can do the thing, my God, I've done it where I've planed 2 things so precisely and so smoothly, like glass, that and then squeezed them too hard with my clamps, because I can over clamp things, and squeeze so much of the glue out of the joint that when I take it apart, it just virtually falls apart because there's not enough glue in it to actually make the bond. Don't want that to happen. Don't want anything even remotely like that to happen. So I'm going to glue these things with a spline in them, which should be perfectly fine. If that spline even closely works, it will be as strong as any other piece of the wood. So to do that, I've got a router and a little makeshift router table set up. I'm going to run the pieces through with their faces down, because that's the side that I really want to have show if there's any variation in the thicknesses of the pieces, which there shouldn't be. But if there's anything about the pieces that's not the same, I'd want it to be the back, to show on the back rather than show on the front. So I'm going to run them through on the face. I've decided I'm going to run them through because I'm going to use cherry. It's not like it's not going to show, but I don't really care. I'm going to run it through completely through the joint. So I'm going to run the joints. We'll just say this joint is 7 inches long. I'll put 7.5 inch pieces of wood in here, glue them in, that way I won't have to worry about where they are. And then after the glue set, I will trim the outside corner and the inside corner, and you will be able to see it on the outside. The inside you won't be able to see because that's the picture, the glass rabbit. So long, full length splines. I'm going to glue them together. Probably going to use my corner clamps to pull the whole thing together in one unit. You'll see, I'll have to pad this thing because I really want to make sure these things line up perfectly. One of the things about, I'm planning on using epoxy. One of the things about the epoxy is it's not like it can't, but it doesn't have great strength when it's extremely thin. It's really in my mind, in my humble opinion, it's like inserting plastic in. And it does its best work if it's got some thickness and some mass. So I'm going to leave the pieces a little teeny bit shy of hammer fit. There's no point in having things, if you're epoxying them, so tight that you have to tap them in with a hammer to make them work. If you're using a hide glue, which doesn't behave well with thickness, then you want a hammer finish on it, because the hide glue is extremely thin and it will bond in very, very thin pieces. Why don't I use hide glue? Because I'm using epoxy. I don't know. That's what's going to happen. Anyway, here we go. Router, run the pieces through, make a frame, make some sandwich pieces so that it can hold these things in alignment, make sure everything's flat, take up almost all of the bench, and get it glued up, get covered. It'll be great. I mean, this is like an epic poem, right? All right, let's get going. First stanza starts with getting a bit in the router. Let's do that. So 1/2 inch shank, 1/2 inch collet. You can buy these router bits in many different sizes. I'm kind of queer for the 1/2 inch shank. There's the promise of a little bit more stability in the 1/2 inch because it's 1/2 inch. You know, I feel a little bit more like the guitarist on Spinal Tap, where my guitar goes to 11, my amplifier goes to 11. Yeah, but the 1/2 inch is 1/2 inch. I like the 1/2 inch. almost everything you can buy in a 1/2 inch shank, and that's, I think, good. Okay, good. Nice thing about the little novelty bits like this is they rarely get so much use that they get dull. So let's see what happens. Get this in there. I'm not going to say whether or not I've got this plugged in at the moment. Look at us go. It's kind of arbitrary as to where this gets set. Somewhere in the middle. Doesn't much matter. If it's near the middle, that'll be pretty good. This is a little bit up from middle, so I'm going to run it down just a smidge. You know, I said I was going to run it all the way through to the outside corner. But then I said, I can hear myself saying, but I'm going to use my corner clamps. If I run this thing through the corner, my corner clamps really won't work because they'll be on it, the spline. It's not good. Oh, you know what? I think I'm going to change my opinion, and I'm not going to run this thing all the way through to the outside corner. There you go. There was a on the ground decision. It's like calling an audible. So this, I'm going to set this up. I'm going to lean from that side, and I'm going to plow like that and pull it out before it gets past here. And then I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to come in like that and run it through. And set that aside and do that 4 times. Earmuffs, get a work shirt on. Let's get that done. I'm not looking forward to this. Getting my hands right next to something going 25,000 RPM is not what I'm really interested in doing. But we're going to do that. The nice thing about the router table is it doesn't move. So in that whole world of moving targets, this is going to be right here. So all I have to do is keep my hands from pushing my hands into the blade. There's no way the thing is going to jump like when you're running the hand router for something like this. Let's see how it goes. I know you're pulling for me. I'm hoping that it works. All right. I don't know if I was thinking or not. I made I ran a test piece. It's one of the offcuts, but it's the same thing, 45-degree angle and grainy thing, blah blah blah. So I made one of these just so I could gauge a little strip of wood in case it was too thick and it jammed. I could pry it out and I wouldn't be messing up one of my work pieces. You know, test piece. That came out real well. I'm really happy with that. I mean, it's a hand fit. Glue will set in there really nicely. Any kind of glue would work in that. Great. And then I started looking at it thinking, I'm going to have, this is running grain and it's just going to split. If something were to happen, it wouldn't do much. It would do a lot. I mean, the pieces are going to pry on each other and this is going to have to get pulled. It's not like you can get in there with a knife and cut it, but still, it's sort of contrary to what I was thinking I wanted to do. I don't know why I didn't think this through enough. Anyway, went back to the drawing board, so to speak. Went to the junk pile, grabbed a piece that wasn't good enough to make one of the other pieces out of, and milled it down to 1/8 of an inch thick. So I can now cut, and I'll cut a couple of pieces, cut 1-inch pieces off the end of this thing, and I'll put these 1-inch pieces in with the grain running this way, right? And that'll give it absolute strength, and it won't break in any condition at all, and the glue will still whatever. And I can round this end, because if you recall, I stopped this, so this has got a radius on it inside there, so this will need a radius cut on it. That's no big deal, I can do that. So this is where I am now. Got this piece is, you know, I need 6, 8 1-inch pieces out of this thing. I think I've got it. And this will, you know, go to the wood stove. All right, so now I've got this cut. It all fits my sample piece. I'm loving that. And so I'll cut these, prep these things, shove them in the ends, and then start the process of, I think I'm going to take little pieces of, I've got some melamine coated plywood left over from some damn thing. Melamine plastic. And I think I'm going to get some little pads, and we put a piece of melamine plastic coated plywood on either side of this, and put a clamp on it to help line the pieces up. That last little bit of to flatten them. Keep it out of the way of the corner so that I can get my corner clamps on and pull the whole frame together. I'm going a little far with this thing, but I don't make a lot of frames. It's not the first one I've ever made. This isn't watch me make something for the first time, but it's basically watch me mentally go through the mental gymnastics of how to make a good one every single time I do it. They're all a little teeny bit different because of the wood or the sizes, or, you know, the amount of time I have to get lost down that rabbit hole. Let's cut some pieces of wood. All right, so I cut these pieces, and this is clearly, I'm sure you already know, but this is why I'm not in the framing business, right? This is why I'm not in any business at all. This is the descent in the rabbit hole business, I guess. But cutting these things leaves a little bit of a burr on them. And I know that burr is there. And it makes it slightly wider at the edge, so when I go to put these things in the glued joint, it'll scrape some of the glue out, and I'll have less glue in the joint. Or the opportunity for starvation, I don't know. I just don't know. Anyway, won't take but a moment. Everything just doesn't take but a moment. But I guess you're getting a kick out of the fact that I use pieces of cherry, like it matters at all for the spline material. You know, there's no real justification for any of this. But I had it. I had a chunk of a scrap of it that wasn't good enough to make part of a frame. So I did that. Okay, so next is I need to get a sample piece, get one made, and I need to put a radius, the radius of this, whatever that is, on the ends of both sides of this. Need a bit of a radius. And this is, you know, about 2 inches, so about a 2-inch radius. It's bigger than a lid, more than a quarter, less than a roll of tape. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm just going to eyeball it. I'm just going to wing it. Let me grab a chisel. This will work. Cut a little bit of a radius and then do a test. Simple. Get one that fits, and then I'll make 3 more like that. That looks like a 1/2-inch radius, right? Do better. Do better. That's got no symmetry to it at all, but it's a thing. So this is what it's about. Getting it snug into this part of the joint without camming out. I mean, I could put it in like that, but the next piece won't fit, right? You know that. Not that this is with any certainty the next piece, but like that. And that's how that's going to go. And that'll hold these things pretty good, pretty tight, and I'll be pretty happy. All right, let's do a little bit better job in the radius. If I do a good job on one, then I can use it as a model for the others. I need 3 more. There we go. That should be it. Beautiful thing. That's just super. All right, ordering 3 more. I'll probably just use my belt sander. You know, and then you have that, well, why don't I just use my belt sander? What I really want is a stand-up bench sander disc. Stand-up disc with a fence on it, a big disc. The big boys have those, I don't. Let me get the belt sander. That'll work. All right, well, here's the belt sander. Oh, put your hands in your ears. It makes a bunch of noise. All right, you can probably tell the bushings are about gone. It's a beater, right? It's a tool that I only do things that I hate in it, right? With it. Anyway, there it is. Dave's belt sander. Horrible little thing. Horrible. Someday when I grow up, I'll get a good one. Anyway, that was great. And now we've got 4, pieces with caps on them. So I can hear you. Dave, why don't you just use a biscuit joiner and just put biscuits in? And okay, first of all, I've got a biscuit joiner. It's not like I don't. But have you ever seen what they make biscuits out of? They make them out of sawdust. Now, granted, they make it out of sawdust, so the grain in them goes in every different direction. And that's got some value to somebody. But what I think of when I look at that is first I'm depending solely on whatever kind of glue someone that I don't even know used on those biscuits. And then I think with the grain of those things, that all the little chips all mushed together, like little what are those biscuits? Can't think of what they were called. Little shredded wheat biscuits. The grain of them runs all the way to all different directions. But that means that half of the grain pieces run in the wrong direction. I've already been there with the wrong direction. So I did this. I've got 4 joints to biscuit. I can live through this. This is, I've got plenty of time. I've got plenty of time when it compares to this. This is going to last, if things go right, this lasts for a couple of generations. I mean, we all constantly deal with old things that are hundreds of years old. I aspire to have my stuff last hundreds of years. Why not? And the way that you can do that is don't make it out of cardboard and don't make it out of crap. Make it out of something that has some chance of lasting 100 years or more. It's not that hard. You can't bang it out of a machine and vacuum form it out of a piece of plastic. That stuff's gone very, very quickly. So you have to come up with another way. The other way that I've come up with is the way that they used to do it back when they made the things that I already have that lasted 100 years. A little observation about life from Dave. Let's get back to work.